World of Warcraft has a long and storied history filled with disasters, right? We know about the plague spreading across the planet. We know about the Sundering happening. Different events that have occurred in the game that have led to catastrophic things. I mean, Cataclysm, that's one right there. So let's look back at this video here through the history before we head into midnight. All the disasters that nobody could predict. The biggest disasters in World of Warcraft history. Here we go. Let's check this one out.
Arthas began as the heir to a great kingdom, but ended as the master of the Scourge. His betrayal shattered the fate of Lordaeron and set in motion events that claimed thousands of innocent lives. But you know, his wasn't the only act of treachery in Warcraft's history.
I'll just flat out say this is the best story in all of World of Warcraft. This should have been what the movie was about. When they made a WoW movie like this, the story of Arthas Menethil could easily be related to with somebody who's never even picked up World of Warcraft or knows nothing about the franchise. It's a story of a prince maybe who was, he wasn't mature enough to realize that his decisions had consequences. He pushed too far trying to do a good thing and was willing to do bad things to accomplish that good thing, and it led to his downfall. It's very much like a, Darth Vader-esque storyline. So, I mean, this would have been great to see cinematically. And obviously Henry Cavill would have played Arthas. I mean, that's a gimme. So this is still my favorite story in all of WoW.
The only act of treachery in Warcraft's history that led to such catastrophic consequences. In this video, I want to talk about those whom everyone despises, the traitors, whose actions doomed entire peoples and even reshaped the histories of whole nations. For many, Deathwing is simply the evil dragon who appeared in Cataclysm and decided to destroy the world. In reality, he has an immense backstory that remains largely unexplored for many. Furthermore, one of his actions led to the near-complete extinction of 2 entire dragon flights. Long ago, there was Galakrond, a proto-dragon monstrous in
look at Galakrond's scale, man. Was he this big in the game? We saw his skull in the game in that dungeon. But I mean, I could move my little cam right here. Look at the little proto-drake. That's a regular-sized proto-drake right there. Just above the Starforge thing. And that shit, compared to the size of Galakrond, is insane. He is mad. It's like the size of his toenail. I don't think he was that scale. I don't know why I didn't think his skull was that big in the dungeon we ran, but maybe it was.
Monstrous in every sense, consumed by bloodlust. He was colossal. To the world's great misfortune, he went mad and began hunting and devouring other proto-dragons. Simultaneously, he amassed a formidable army of the living dead, which were one of the earliest known manifestations of the undead on Azeroth. The proto-dragons managed to unite and destroy him, albeit at the cost of unimaginable effort. The Titans blessed the dragons, granting 5 of them a shard of their power and the mandate to watch over Azeroth with their respective dragonflights. One aspect guarded time, another life, and so on. Deathwing, then Neltharion, was one of them. He was entrusted with dominion over the earth.
He's also a Dragonblight Wrath,
used his power for good at first, creating like a true artist, forming mountains and rivers, pleasant landscapes, and simply irresistible vistas. But over time, the burden placed upon him began to weigh heavily. He felt he had been given too many duties and could not properly cope with them. Deep down, he began to dream that his flight, the Black Dragon Flight, would rule supreme over Azeroth.
I mean, it's not just like he was overworked. He was sitting inside of the planet, and guess who else was sitting inside of the planet? The old gods were. So you had N'Zoth whispering in his ear and all this corruption shit happening around him. It slowly seeped into his mind, and he eventually was corrupted and turned to madness. That's what really got him.
This moral decline was definitely
was it because he was pulling too many shifts at the factory,
who began to corrupt the Earth Warder, convincing him to forge a powerful artifact, the Dragon Soul, which could subjugate and annihilate dragons on a massive scale. It wasn't long before the artifact was put to use. Neltharion secretly harbored his intentions to dominate the other flights. To everyone else, he remained a confident, worthy leader, and no one expected him to use such colossal power against his own allies. The perfect moment to force everyone to their knees arose during the War of the Ancients, when the Burning Legion set its sights on Azeroth. This war was incredibly devastating for Azeroth, reshaping the very planet in many ways. Neltharion convinced the Dragonflights to reinforce the artifact, infusing it with a portion of their draconic essence to fight Sargeras' minions more effectively. They believed him and buffed the artifact, turning it into an incredibly powerful weapon. During one of the most crucial moments, as the dragonflights battled the demons, Neltharion chose to use the dragon soul. He directed its blasts against the demons, but simultaneously destroyed many of his allies, the elves. He then issued an ultimatum. Either the other dragonflights would submit to him and the black dragons, or they would be annihilated. The aspect leaders could not tolerate such a betrayal and attempted to strike down their corrupted brother. Neltharion used the artifact again, directing it at the blue dragonflight as they tried to surround him. The result was the destruction of almost every blue dragon. Later, heroes managed to steal the artifact from Deathwing, forcing him into...
Interestingly enough, the whole Deathwing story really does sound like Sargeras' story too, where his own Titan brethren, tried to stop him from doing what he was doing, and he fought against them and ended up winning.
Hiding for thousands of years, up until the events of the first wars in Azeroth with the orcs, but the consequences of his treachery were colossal. A war erupted among the dragonflights, with everyone turning against the black dragons, Deathwing's servants. Despite the unified opposition, the battle was fierce. Ultimately, nearly all of the black dragons were wiped out, just like the blue dragons. In Warcraft strategies, we rarely encountered representatives of these flights. In World of Warcraft, we repeatedly thwarted the attempts of black dragons loyal to Deathwing to resurrect their flight. In vanilla, black dragons cleverly manipulated the Stormwind nobility and, disguised as humans, came close to seizing control of the entire
Nixia. Yeah, tons of black dragons over the history of the game. I don't know if it's just they're more apt to being corrupted because of, their location in the world. Typically they're underground. But yeah, they've been corrupted a lot over the years. I mean, we've seen black dragons being corrupted in the eggs, right? In the womb being corrupted. Rathian wasn't, but that was why we didn't trust Rathian very early on. Because he was a black dragon, we were worried about his own corruption, and he takes us down that quest line where he's destroying black dragon eggs and all that shit, but he's trying to save the ones that are not corrupted. So there was that whole storyline with him. And eventually we kind of right the ship and discover, not all black dragons are corrupted, and we do that stuff in Dragonflight.
Kingdom. Experiments were also conducted on eggs to breed new types of dragons. In Cataclysm, attempts to restore past glory continued, and the experiments reached a new level. They achieved a degree of success in creating chromatic dragons, who were meant to vastly surpass the other flights. But they failed this time as well. Only recently, following the events of Dragonflight and Rathion's attempts to gather all uncorrupted black dragons under one banner, the flight has begun to revive, not as antagonists and pariahs with a millennia-long history of hatred, but as a positive force. The High Elves have a tragic and heavy lore. First, the orcs swept through the elven lands during the Second War, ravaging their beautiful domain and...
okay, I'm not going to comment on Tidewell's comment there. The colors of the dragons are representative of their powers. It's very earthy, right? That's why the black dragons are the black dragons. You got Arcane, which is blue, the color of the blue. Life red, ruby, that kind of shit. Yeah, of course. Makes
attacking
sense.
Their capital alongside their ancient enemies, the
Trying to start trouble.
Before the elves could truly recover from that catastrophe, the Scourge arrived, intending to capture the Sunwell and resurrect the great necromancer, Kael'Thas. The elves knew that after the fall of Lord Aeron, they would be next, and so they methodically prepared for their kingdom's walls to come under attack once more. They were not wrong, and they prepared the defenses as well as they could. However, the Scourge was relentless.
Arthas? This story is very much relevant right now in Midnight, right? We have this dead scar from this very event. Arthas coming up to Silvermoon. That's existed since we started playing WoW. I mean, well, since BC, really, because that's when we really got to see the dead scar and Silvermoon and everything else. It's been there forever. Thought to be unhealable. Suddenly, it's been able to be healed. We'll get a little storyline behind that, I'm sure. But, this story played a massive role that scarred the land, for 25 years? No, even longer, because technically it existed before WoW even started.
Did not care how many of the living dead he had to sacrifice to breach Quel'Thalas' defenses. Even when faced with what appeared to be a formidable geographic barrier in the form of a river, he simply ordered the undead to construct a bridge literally out of their own bodies so the rest of his forces could cross. This monstrosity struck fear into the defenders' ranks, but failed to break their will to fight. The Elven Kingdom might have held out longer had it not been for the betrayal of Darkan Drathyr. Who was he?
Right.
High Elven society has its magisters, skilled warriors who have become masters of the magical arts. They are the elite, an impenetrable shield and a sharp sword for their race. They are few in number, but their power, skill, and combat prowess can outmatch many warriors in the Eastern Kingdoms. Among the magisters is an even more prestigious title, the Grand Magister of Quel'Thalas. This is the strongest among the strongest, chosen
Magister's Terrace, you guys know, the dungeon and everything, going to be relevant again in Midnight. Yep, that's relevant to these Magisters, where they train, where they play.
By popular vote. Darkan Drathyr had been a Magister for a long time and was generally a positive
where
figure
the master
with
of
good
all
contacts
stands
and influential friends, including the kingdom's future ruler. However, deep down, Darkan Drathyr dreamed of becoming the Grand Magister. His skills were insufficient, and Grand Magisters do not pass the torch often. He also lacked foresight and honor. For example, during the Second War, he dismissed the orcs as a minor threat, confident they couldn't breach the magical barriers. The Scourge invasion followed a classic pattern.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Character who yearns for power but cannot attain it is...
I believe the way the orcs got past the barrier, I think it was Gul'dan using warlock magic on the stones. If somebody knows the exact lore, they can correct me, but I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. Was like there was some kind of warlock magic that Gul'dan was able to do to, I don't know, disenchant or stop some of the stones from creating a barrier, and that was how they were able to kind of do their thing.
Presented with a convenient antagonist who can grant it.
And they teamed up with the trolls to do it.
To some extent, slept through the Scourge's invasion. They were gathered on the Isle of Quel'Thalas for a meeting. The elves bearing the initial attack tried to relay the news, as the Magister's aid could have turned the tide of battle in their favor. However, the Scourge knew this and cut off communication lines, killing the messengers. When the news finally reached them, they engaged the Scourge and commanded the defense of the capital. The events at the Sunwell might have had a more positive outcome, were it not for one crucial factor. Darkan Drathyr made a pact with the devil, hoping Arthas would grant him immense power. In return, the price was simple: lead the Scourge through the elves' defensive lines and sabotage the kingdom's defense.
He fucked up.
Darkan Drathyr succeeded brilliantly at both tasks. He murdered his comrades, people he had befriended or served with for years. He neutralized the defenders' forces, allowing the Scourge to breach the city. The Magister's betrayal forever marked Elven history, even if the Scourge would have succeeded anyway. As a result of the Scourge's invasion, 90% of the High Elves were either killed
Damn, guy is responsible for 90% of his race's deaths. Shit.
Or turned into part of Arthas's army.
Yeah, that's a betrayal.
Darkan Drathyr himself met the fate befitting a traitor. He tried to betray Arthas shortly after the city siege, for which he was killed and raised as his servant. We were finally able to put him down during the Burning Crusade, where he served as a commander in one of the Scourge strongholds in the former Elven lands. Speaking of the elves, one cannot forget the double betrayal of Prince Kael'Thas, who led the remnants of those few who survived the slaughter. The prince hoped to give
Prince Kael'Thas is interesting because, like, he was trying to do the right thing. He ended up going to Outland to try to save his people, right? And he teamed up with Illidan again to try to save his people. It was his pursuit of power, kind of a typical trope in WoW. Pursuing power to do the right thing leads to the wrong thing. I think it was eventually Fel magic that corrupted him, because he was trying to save his people. He was not trying to just become an all-powerful wizard or whatever. He took up Fel to try to, help his people defeat to get past the issues they had at the time. And, he's the one who came up with the Blood Elves name, right? Bloodied Past, the Scourge, and all that had happened to them, and he was just trying to find him a new home.
People a new chance to find a new source of energy vital to sustaining their power.
After the Sunwell was destroyed,
with Illidan, assisting him in campaigns in Outland and Northrend. It seemed that with Illidan, his people had a real opportunity to recover from the consequences of the Third War. However, the prince became paranoid, mistrusting even his subordinates. His authority as a savior, he believed, was eroding. The Burning Legion took advantage of his internal doubts, convincing the prince to betray not only his people on Azeroth, but also his main ally, Illidan. But that, of course, is another story. In short, the elves were truly unfortunate to have survived so many political and military crises within a single decade. Several human kings betrayed their own. Altaric aided the Horde, Stromgarde's ruler slew his father, and Arthas. Well, you know the rest, and humans weren't the only ones. Let us travel to the northern frigid continent, home to the Nerubian race. They dwell beneath the earth and possess their own subterranean kingdom. As Nerub, the Nerubians are known for their deep-seated distrust and xenophobia, which is interwoven with their strength and mastery of tactical tricks. Life underground taught them a unique fighting strategy, the digging of tunnels, which allows the
Nerubians were very tough for Arthas to deal with. Believe it or not, like they are very much resistant to a lot of necrosis and what's it called, like death raising, right? Like they're very much immune to a lot of necrotic magic. So it was very hard for Arthas and the Scourge to defeat them. Eventually, they overwhelmed them, but they held off for quite a while.
Nerubians to infiltrate behind enemy lines and sow chaos in the rear. You never know where they will appear, as they can suddenly burst out of the ground. The inhabitants of Nerub encountered the arrival of the Scourge long before the dead marched through Lordaeron. One could say that Nerub became the first serious obstacle to the Scourge's dominance. When the Lich King Ner'zhul was actively conquering Northrend, it provoked obvious outrage from the Nerubians, who already viewed other races with disdain and negativity. A war began, and the Nerubians had a few aces up their sleeves. Firstly, their tunneling tactics allowed them to inflict pinpoint, yet very bloody, strikes against the undead.
Some guerrilla warfare.
The Nerubians were immune to the plague. Therefore, the Scourge could not simply toss in infected grain, hoping that entire settlements would turn into undead on their own. The Nerubian king, Anub'arak, held the line with dignity. And truly, it was not an easy stroll for
It was Anub'arak's fall and eventual res into as an undead that it really led to the fall of them and the loss to the Scourge.
However, the war began to stall. Neither the Nerubians nor the Scourge could achieve a decisive victory. Yet time favored the dead, not the living. The Scourge had a vast resource pool and could afford to tolerate catastrophic losses. The Nerubians could not boast the same. Their defenses began to crumble, and the Scourge attacks only intensified. This desperation even forced Anub'arak to ask a neighboring Nerubian kingdom for aid. He sent diplomats, only to receive one refusal after another. The neighboring kingdom's stance was, "You wanted war with the Scourge? You got it. We are not involved. Deal with your problems yourself." Anub'arak was left alone. The Scourge managed to breach the underground kingdom and kill the king himself. Yes, as I said earlier, the plague cannot infect Nerubians, but nothing prevents the undead from resurrecting dead Nerubians. To his great delight, the Lich King resurrected Anub'arak, forcing him to turn against his own people. Furthermore, with his intimate knowledge of the kingdom's layout and defenses, he swiftly dismantled the remaining defenders one by one. The dead Nerubian no longer cared what his kingdom was like before the war. He merely and unquestioningly carried out the Scourge's orders, unable even to resist. He was dubbed the Traitor King, who not only defected to the enemy, but literally led the attacking forces.
Right.
We encountered Anub'arak in Warcraft 3.
I would say it's not really fair to call him a traitor. I mean, he was kind of controlled at that point. He was just a part of the Scourge, right? So he's being controlled by Arthas.
It was also revealed there that while the Nerubians were trying to survive, they dug deeper and deeper. They descended to such a depth that they stumbled upon the creatures of the old gods, the Faceless Ones. In Wrath of the Lich King, the former king continued his hunt for the Nerubians, who had not yet submitted to the Lich King's will. There were few of them, just pathetic remnants scattered throughout the tunnels of Northrend. They tried to resist, but the dream of resurrecting their kingdom was already lost. To them, Anub'arak will always be the king who betrayed his own. We were able to slay the fallen king
they're
in
so
one
unfair
of the
to him.
raids, where he appeared as a major boss, and with that, his sad story came to an end. The events of the Battle for Azeroth expansion sparked strong reactions across the Warcraft community, both excitement and frustration, as players debated the direction the story and its characters were taking. The Horde Warchief, Sylvanas, began a new war in Azeroth.
This fucking story.
Kael'Thas, the ancestral home of many Night Elves, was
Did Sylvanas betray her people? Shit, yeah, she did. She did. I don't know if she thought I guess we'll get some clarity eventually on this, but maybe she thought she was doing something to help them. But the way she just fucking dipped out and listened to this bald-headed, big-nippled man tell her about how the universe should be reworked and rearranged and originated. Not her best choice. Yeah, not her best choice. And she ended up helping him a lot and basically led to the death of tons of Night Elves, her own people, the Horde and the Alliance, and it was all a plan to feed them all and do all this shit, and she screwed everybody over. Basically, a dumb decision, Sylvanas. awfully bold of you to complain about people listening to bald men, Sam. Well, yeah. Thought you'd like that she was talking to a guy like that. Yeah, okay. Here come the fucking bald comments. Shit.
And later burned.
I walked right into that one.
Were burned alive, and some were even raised by Sylvanas.
My life needs to be re-originated.
Next came the battle for Lordaeron. The Alliance sought revenge against the Horde and besieged the former Alliance capital, which had been under the control of the undead for many years. Although the Alliance won, it was a Pyrrhic victory. Too many sacrifices were made to gain control of a city that Sylvanas had blanketed with a lethal plague. This was only the beginning of a wave of deadly events that occurred in the following years. Zandalar and Quel'Thalas could not remain neutral and were drawn into the New World War. Unfortunately for their inhabitants...
Look at what a fucking sin. Nathanael's just standing... I mean, this guy annoys the shit out of me. Look at him just standing there waiting for her. I'm holding your bow, Doc Lady. Shut the fuck up, Nathanos, you dumbass. He literally died in the beginning of the expansion for no reason, thinking his soul was going to go to the maw and Sylvanas was going to save him. Guess what, Simp Lord? You were wrong. She just let you wither away in the fucking maw the entire damn expansion. Now, is she going to bring him back eventually? Maybe. But only after her ex, the jailer, is dead. That's the only reason she's coming back to him. I hope Nathanos knows that. This guy needs to grow a pair.
Unfortunately for their inhabitants, they found themselves in the middle of the Alliance and Horde military campaigns. Concurrently, Sylvanas sought new allies. She embraced the Maghar, offered a chance to the San'lain, and secured the support of the Zandalari. However, her rule increasingly sparked questions and indignation among her own subordinates. Suspicions that she was leading the Horde astray, and perhaps doing so intentionally, grew stronger. Meanwhile, Sylvanas gathered loyalists around her, mainly among the Forsaken, and eliminated enemies within the Horde. In one storyline, she attempted to hunt down and assassinate Saurfang, an orc who was guided by honor, even toward his enemies. The assassination attempt failed, and Saurfang managed to escape and kill the assassins sent out.
I didn't read the book that explains how he failed her. I mean, if he failed her, what the hell was her mission? To have him fight against Tyrande? What, she really thought he would win? He was probably carrying something out. Yeah, maybe he didn't expect Tyrande to try to 1v1 him, because he was easily outmatched in that case. Whether or not she had the moon goddess's power, I think she could have killed him in a 1v1. But so it's explained in a book that he failed her. Well, then I think Blizzard failed me by not having that in the game. It should be in a book.
After him. Another point of division was Sylvanas' attempt to kill Bane. Since the beginning of the Fourth War, he had voiced doubts about the war chief's decisions. He disapproved of the burning of Teldrassil, the plague that covered the streets of Lordaeron, and was disgusted that she dared to raise fallen warriors as undead. He even helped one of them escape. Sylvanas ordered him imprisoned and subsequently killed for sabotaging her plans. This only alienated other Horde leaders. The number of those loyal to her, or who respected her authority, dwindled with every action she took. Ultimately, this culminated in those dissatisfied with her rule gathering at the gates of Orgrimmar, ready to begin a new battle. However, to spare lives on both sides, loyalists and rebels, Saurfang challenged Sylvanas to a one-on-one duel. Though the Banshee Queen initially gained the upper hand, Saurfang found a second wind. He declared that the Horde was strong and would endure, and that even if he fell, hope would not die. In response, Sylvanas declared that the Horde was nothing and revealed her true intentions. It became clear to everyone that she cared nothing for the...
Speaking of storytelling, and yeah, you said I can't read out of books and all that shit, BFA had some of the best storytelling ever in an expansion. These cutscene cinematics were great. The Saurfang music, the way it used to play. I don't know, the whole story with his son and everything, and the cinematics, and him wanting an honorable death. And I'm an Alliance player, but I really felt with these. These were such good ways to tell stories, and I thought we were going to get more of this going forward, and then it just kind of stopped. They never did it again. But say what you want about the BFA expansion, the storytelling was S tier. It was really, really good.
Horde. It was merely a tool for her wicked plans. Her rule ended there, and she fled. The loyalists remaining in Orgrimmar were shackled. We could see them arrested in Orgrimmar shortly after the events of that cinematic. Only later did we learn that all these events were part of a great master plan orchestrated by the infamous 5D chess player and dog genius, and in my opinion, the most boring main villain, the Jailer. It was he who commanded Sylvanas to sow maximum chaos and destruction on Azeroth.
Imagine how these people feel now. Imagine these guys. Where are they? Hold on, can I get a Banshee loyal? Imagine. Too bad you were wrong, dumbasses. Yeah, she shouldn't have been loyal. She was completely fucking you over.
Destruction on Azeroth. And whatever anyone might say, the Banshee Queen accomplished that task quite successfully. In Shadowlands, she became a raid boss. Later, when she realized the jailer had deceived her and was merely manipulating her, she recognized the destruction she had wrought. As penance for her sins, she dove into the maw. Judging by the latest updates in the War Within, we will likely see Sylvanas' return. Her character has long been a subject of controversy, so let us hope for a worthy continuation or conclusion to her story.
Yep, nice one. Yeah, nice video. Yeah, Betrayal. I mean, I didn't realize this video was going to be about betrayal mostly, but that's what it was. A lot of betrayal has occurred. People pursuing noble goals and doing so in the wrong way. Obviously, a lot of corruption, too. A lot of this stuff had to do with corruption from old gods and everything leading to betrayal. Overall, cool stuff. Nice history lesson. Obviously, a lot of this stuff's going to come back at midnight. Sylvanas and Kael'Thas and everything else. So we'll see where all this goes going forward. Nice video from Necro War.